One day, the main character, a boy named Yagiri, was saving his sister, Asaka, from being killed by a woman. The woman threatened Yagiri that if he moved, his sister would be killed, and then he would be killed too. However, something happened when Yagiri stared at the woman. Of course, Asaka didn't understand what was happening with the woman. Then Yagiri persuaded Asaka to go home together. Shortly after, a teenage Yagiri was awakened by a beautiful girl named Danora Tamachika. It turned out Yagiri had just dreamt of a past event he had experienced. Danora panicked and got angry at Yagiri for sleeping during such critical moments. As it happened, their school bus was being attacked by a wyvern, resulting in the death of their two friends due to the attack. The wyvern was about to attack them with a blast of fire. Danora hugged Yagiri in fear as they were likely to die soon. Yagiri felt a soft, supple touch on his arm and immediately killed the wyvern while contemplating that touch. Of course, Danora was bewildered by what had just occurred. Then Yagiri asked Danora to calm down and explained why their bus was attacked by the wyvern. Danora explained that their school bus was on a field trip. However, when the bus entered a tunnel under the hill, suddenly, the bus arrived in a vast grassland due to being transferred to another world. Soon after, a spoiled girl named Seon appeared. Seon was the great sage who summoned them to this world. She could summon anyone from another world as she pleased, whenever, wherever. Seon immediately killed the teacher and bus driver for interrupting her speech to the students. Seon instructed the students not to scream on the bus. If they attempted to fight her, they could die by her hands. Seon explained that she wanted to find candidates for Great Sage. Then, she bestowed them with the power to become sages in this world. Seon installed a system called Battle Song only for those deserving of it. Danora's good friend, Mikochi, saw an open status window in front of her, but Danora couldn't see it. The system in this world is also commonly referred to as a gift. Seon hoped that the chosen ones could develop their abilities and become strong sages. She gave them 1 month, and for those who didn't receive a gift, they could become slaves of the sages. Then, Seon left, and the students began discussing the first mission that appeared in the status window. They were also going to fight a dragon that would attack them soon. There were 4 people who didn't receive a gift: Kiryu, Shinazaki, Yagiri, and Danora. Danora had known Yagiri for a long time because he was a habitual sleeper in school. Then, the other students started leaving the bus without inviting Danora and the others. Danora tried to wake Yagiri, but Yagiri was very difficult to awaken. When Kiryu and Shinazaki wanted to leave the bus, suddenly, Yazaki blocked their way using a bus seat. Yazaki said that the 4 people without a gift had to stay inside the bus. Yazaki mentioned that whoever received a gift would become very powerful even at level 1. So, the 4 people without gifts would be a burden to the other students. Of course, Kiryu and Shinazaki were upset because the students were selfish and unwilling to protect the weak. Then, a girl named Isuha immediately cast a monster allure spell on them. The dragon would soon attack, and they would be sacrificed so that the other students could escape. Hearing this, Danora was confused by Yazaki's decision. Even the other students might not agree with it. Then Yazaki stated that this decision was the result of their previous discussion. Danora was surprised and wanted to hear Mikochi's opinion directly. But Yazaki said that Mikochi also agreed with this. So, the students would quickly head to the city so they could survive. Danora couldn't believe that Mikochi would agree with a decision like this. After Yazaki and the other students went to the city, a wyvern came and attacked the bus, and Shinazaki died right in front of them, as did Kiryu. Only Danora and Yagiri remained inside the bus now. After hearing Danora's explanation, Yagiri asked Danora to leave the bus now because the situation was safe. Then Danora wanted to know how the wyvern could suddenly die. She believed that Yagiri must have done something to defeat it. However, Yagiri didn't explain anything because it was difficult to be understood or believed by Danora. When they exited the bus, Yagiri saw 3 places there: mountains, a city, and a forest. Shortly after, 3 students flew over to see the bodies inside the bus. Then Yagiri wanted to kill them because they had left the weakest students inside the bus. Their actions needed to be met with appropriate consequences. Higashida, Fukuhara, and Hanekawa were surprised because the wyvern had died, yet someone remained alive inside the bus. Then, they asked Danora to join them. According to the rules, whoever was weakest could be made a slave to drain their energy. Higashida had been the strongest hero even though he only had basic level magic. Danora was very scared because she thought they really wanted her body. Then Yagiri calmed Danora and said he would handle this problem. Yagiri immediately pointed at Higashida and said, "Die." Initially, Fukuhara and Hanekawa laughed at it. But suddenly, Higashida fell and actually died. Yagiri did the same to Fukuhara. Yagiri explained that if he told or commanded someone to die, that person would undoubtedly die. Yagiri's power also applied to any living creature in the world. If Hanakawa didn't believe in Yagiri's ability, he could check the condition of his two friends. Hanakawa was a healer, so he would understand this situation. Of course, Hanakawa's entire body trembled after examining his two friends' bodies. Finally, Danora understood the power Yagiri possessed. Then Hanakawa secretly tried to kill Yagiri while he was talking to Danora. But Yagiri immediately stopped him because Yagiri could sense anyone with the intention to kill. Then Yagiri asked Hanakawa why he and his friends were so confident in controlling the gift in this world. Hanakawa explains that he and his friends were once summoned to this world to defeat the Demon King. Higashida was the strongest hero even with basic level magic. However, Yagiri cut off Hanakawa's story. In essence, after they defeated the Demon King, they were returned to their original world. That meant Yagiri and Danora could also return like them. Hanakawa was slightly annoyed because Yagiri interrupted their touching legend from another world. When Yagiri wanted to command Hanakawa to die, Hanakawa begged for forgiveness while prostrating himself. He even agreed to become Danora's slave to stay alive. Hanakawa immediately put on the slave's iron necklace around his neck and was willing to be commanded by Danora. Then Danora attempted to command him. Danora didn't want to get close to a lewd guy like Hanakawa. She also asked, "How do I stop this slave system?" Hanakawa explained that the slave system couldn't be denied, but the ownership system could be transferred. After hearing that, Danora transferred her ownership of the slave to Yagiri. Then Yagiri immediately commanded Hanakawa to leave everything he had acquired from the kingdom, forbade him from telling anyone about Yagiri and Danora, and lastly, to guard the forest full of monsters. Yagiri intentionally didn't take Hanakawa along because there was a possibility he might betray them. After hearing that, Danora asked Yagiri, "What about me? What if I suddenly betray you someday?" Then Yagiri said that it wasn't a big deal. If Danora wanted to betray him, she could do as she pleased. After all, Yagiri just wanted to protect her, not to prevent her from doing anything. After hearing that, Danora blushed and asked him again, "Why do you want to protect me? We rarely talk even though we're classmates and sit facing each other." Danora wanted to know Yagiri's honest answer from his heart. Then here is Yagiri's honest answer.
おっぱいが柔らかかったから?
On the other hand, Hiachi reported to Seon about the students. The first mission was completed by the students, and there were 4 casualties in the first wave. Seon justified this because those 4 students didn't receive a gift. However, Hiachi said that there were 2 S rank and 2 students without a gift who died. The cause of death for the 2 S rank students was unknown. Of course, Seon was surprised to hear this and was also puzzled by the wyvern that died without any wounds. Hiachi suspected it was an instant death spell, but Seon said there was nothing to worry about. A few hours later, Yagiri and Danora arrived near the nearest town on foot. They wanted to enter the city quickly, but the guards there detained them briefly. Their language was vastly different from that of this world. Minutes passed, and the gate guards brought a man, Masahiko, to speak with them. Masahiko was genuinely annoyed and troubled by the situation because many groups were separated and visiting this city. In fact, anyone who enters this city has to pay an entrance fee, but Masahiko doesn't mind that, because he thinks Yagiri and Danora are sage candidates. Yagiri explained that he got separated from his group, and he and Danora were following them into the city. Yagiri also asked Masahiko for directions to the capital. However, Masahiko was indifferent to Yagiri's questions, as he were not obligated to help sage candidates. Upon hearing this, Yagiri decided to explore the city for clues, but Masahiko allowed Danora to stay at his residence for free. Only Danora. Of course, Danora was disgusted by the offer. While Yagiri and Danora were exploring the city, they encountered a cat girl named Mireyu. Mireyu guessed that they were sage candidates and she offered to help them for free if they were confused. Mireyu did this because she wanted to get close to the male sage candidates, hoping to charm them and be useful for her future. However, she clarified that she wouldn't interfere with a man who already had a girlfriend. After hearing this, Danora stated that she wasn't Yagiri's girlfriend. When Yagiri asked for Danora's opinion, she accepted Mireyu's offer as she wanted to explore a bit more before sunset. However, one night, Yogiri and Danora found themselves trapped by Mireyu. She had brought bandits to take their money and belongings, assuming that Yogiri and Danora were powerless sage candidates. The bandits planned to defeat them and sell them to slave traders for a substantial profit. Danora informed Mireyu that they were no match for Yogiri. But, according to information Mireyu received, Yogiri and Danora were not bestowed with gifts as sage candidates. Upon hearing this, Yogiri swiftly killed them one by one, including Mireyu.
とりあえず後ろの奴らは死ね。
お前は無能力者じゃ。
眼球。左腕。首。あ、失敗した。半分じゃ多すぎたか。
今何を。不発じゃねえか。
今のうちに。化け物はな奴らに関わるんじゃなかった。
As Yogiri killed them in seconds, suddenly, the guards arrived and ordered them to stay in place. A female guard named Edelgard said that she and the guards had witnessed Yogiri's actions. In fact, Edelgard was investigating the mastermind behind this bandit group. However, Yogiri had already eliminated the bandits. Edelgard warned them that gift powers wouldn't affect her. The guards had protection bestowed by the Great Sage. A man accompanying Edelgard named Jorge stated that Yogiri and Danora had no gifts. Then Edelgard was shocked to hear this. Jorge had the ability to identify anyone's status, and he deemed the events of the night impossible for someone without a gift. Edelgard appeared furious, and Jorge apologized to Danora and Yogiri. After they left, Edelgard found one bandit still alive but blind. She took the bandit to Lane's residence for further examination. Lane was a vampire sage with an origin blood class. Anyone bound by blood to Lane would gain extraordinary physical strength. Hours passed, and Lane couldn't understand why the bandit's eyes remained blind, even after providing healing magic. Lane then decides to suck the bandit's blood and turn him into her blood descendant. But the bandit remains blind. After seeing results like this, Lane became curious about Yogiri's strength. Not long afterward, Lane's residence was attacked by a hero named Ain. On the other hand, Danora and Yogiri were checking into a large luxurious inn. Naturally, Danora was delighted, feeling as if she were in a palace. Yogiri then offers Danora to share a room with him, and this offer makes Danora confused. After seeing Danora's response, Yogiri decided to book a room next to hers. When Danora was in her room, she was confused and curious about why Yogiri made such an offer. In fact, Danora even thought that Yogiri might have feelings for her. However, Danora's expectations were shattered when she remembered Yogiri's words.
おっぱいが柔らかかったから？
そっか、興味あるのはどうせ。こっち来てから高藤君と離れて一人になるの初めて？一緒の部屋だなんて何考えてんだか。
Danora was surprised when a spirit suddenly appeared in front of her. She even thought that the spirit was her older sister's spirit. Of course, the spirit, named Makamoko Danora, was annoyed because Danora had mistaken her for her older sister. Makamoko had long been protecting Danora, but Danora was annoyed because the spirit did not appear when she was in danger. Makamoko explained that she was afraid to manifest herself because Yogiri was with Danora. Makamoko could be killed if she suddenly appeared in front of Yogiri. Therefore, Makamoko asked Danora to tell Yogiri about her existence, ensuring she could safely manifest in her presence. Makamoko also rejected the gift system. Danora was not unworthy of being strong, but Makamoko worried that Seon might be planning something. If the gift system succeeded with someone else, Seon could control that power if she wished. The lives of sage candidates were under her control. Makamoko also offered to teach Danora how to fight using the ancestral techniques of the Danora family. After hearing Makamoko's explanation, Danora realized that even spirits like Makamoko feared Yogiri's power. Danora also thought that, while trapped in the other world, she had always relied on Yogiri. So, Danora agreed to accept Makamoko's teachings and decided not to burden Yogiri continuously. The next day, Danora met Yogiri with a tired expression. Yogiri then introduced a female hotel employee named Celestina to Danora. Since the previous night, Celestina had been helping Yogiri find the whereabouts of their friends, how they got there, language translators, status concealment skills, etc. Celestina then provided train tickets for their journey to the capital. After that, Yogiri asked Celestina to store and manage his belongings. Some time later, Danora and Yogiri were on their way to the capital by train. Danora also introduced Makamoko to Yogiri, as promised the previous night. Yogiri then asked Danora to sit beside him, and shortly after, something happened there. It turned out that a battle was taking place between the sage Sentaro and an aggressor, the explorer. During the fight, Sentaro attacked in various directions, almost injuring the passengers. Worse, Sentaro intentionally killed some passengers, but Danora and Yogiri were not affected. Because of this, Sentaro became angry, as he expected them to praise and bow down to him. Anyone should do that when they see a sage passing by. Then, Yogiri unleashed his power on the foolish sage. Yogiri killed him according to his own rules. Then the aggressor approached them, stating that he had no intention of fighting against them. The aggressor offered assistance because they had eased his workload. Then, Yogiri inquired about how to return to their original world from the aggressor. The aggressor stated that he didn't know about that and only understood how to return to his own world. Yogiri then asked the aggressor to take him and Danora to the aggressor's world. However, the aggressor couldn't do it because it was highly impossible. Moreover, Yogiri's presence might pose a threat to the aggressor's world. Also, the human body did not have the power to withstand the energy in the time and space tunnel. After hearing the aggressor's explanation, Yogiri decided to leave the decision to Danora. If Danora wanted something, she could express it to the aggressor. Danora said that she couldn't decide, but suddenly, Makamoko appeared with a brilliant idea that wouldn't burden the aggressor. At night, Danora and Yogiri took a brief rest in a wooded area. Yogiri decided to walk because the train he was on had broken. He didn't want to get involved with the aggressor further, as it would be troublesome in the future. Then, Makamoko appeared and gave something to Danora, a flexible item that could transform into anything, made from parts of the aggressor's robot. Danora was confused about why the item appeared suddenly without her carrying it. Makamoko explained that he intentionally disguised the item as Danora's bra and panties. On the other hand, Edelgard and Jorge were shocked to find Sentaro dead without any visible wounds. At the same time, Lane visited Seon's residence to inquire about Danora and Yogiri. According to Lane, they used strange magic. Seon found it challenging to believe that they could defeat a sage like Sentaro. Still, she knew that Sentaro had been given the ability to ward off death magic in this world. Actually, Seon did not allow Lane to interfere in her affairs and the sage candidates. But this time, Seon would allow it if Lane could drive the aggressor out of this world. Then, Lane agreed to the deal because she couldn't let Yogiri slowly kill the sages. Lane immediately prepared forces in case of a future war. Sometime later, Danora and Yogiri arrived in a modern city named Hanabusa. Yogiri appeared tired from navigating the forest while protecting Danora from monster and bandit attacks. Of course, Danora was upset that Yogiri hadn't mentioned this from the beginning, but Yogiri didn't mind as long as he could protect her. Besides, Yogiri's power could be used limitlessly as he pleased. They then booked a room at a hotel there and encountered Tachibana Yuuki. Yuuki was one of the students who agreed to leave Danora, Yogiri, and two other students on the bus during a previous incident. Yuuki was grateful that Danora had arrived at the city safely. Danora asked, "Why are you here? Weren't you with your friends?" Yuuki explained that he intentionally didn't follow the group of students. According to Yuuki, the methods of leveling up other students were ineffective and inefficient. That night, the students were celebrating their success in completing the first mission, but Yuuki couldn't join them because of his Dominator class. Other students had their own classes, each with unique problems. One student named Utori, with a consultant class, could analyze other classes. Utori advised Yuuki to make contracts with slaves to level up faster. The more slaves Yuuki obtained, the more benefits he would gain. His slaves would work against monsters, allowing Yuuki to relax without working hard. Due to this, Yuuki could enjoy the city and had acquired many sexy slave girls. Yuuki also wanted to recruit Danora as his slave. Of course, Danora felt disgusted and rejected Yuuki's invitation. Yuuki chatted and tried to persuade Danora in front of his slaves. He even offered himself to be Danora's lover. The slaves got angry as Danora seemed close to Yuuki.
僕の愛人にならない？今すぐでなくてもいいからゆっくり考えて。
On the other hand, Lane was fighting another aggressor named Kurayami. Lane struggled against Kurayami, a monster formed from many black particles. A few days later, Danora was truly bored staying continuously in the hotel room. While Yagiri had been sleeping in his room for 3 days, Danora planned to take a walk in the city, but she suddenly saw chaos outside. It turned out that the chaos was caused by the zombie subordinate of the Great Sage. Because of this, Danora abandoned her intention to leave the hotel. Danora was confused about the situation. Why were there zombies ruling in another world? Shortly after, someone was waiting for Danora to come out of her room. Makamoko sensed the evil aura of that person but couldn't see the figure. Danora immediately called Yagiri because she couldn't fight an invisible enemy. Yagiri, dreaming peacefully with his sister Asaka, woke up when Danora called him. After Danora informed him of the situation, Yagiri slowly approached Danora's room, checked the situation with his powers, and killed the person. Yagiri entered Danora's room and informed her that the person was targeting her. Then Danora was confused about the person's intentions. When Danora saw the corpse in front of her room, Danora realized she was Erika, Yuuki's slave girl. Because of this, Danora hurriedly packed her belongings to prevent Yuuki from going berserk. Yagiri was curious why Danora seemed so calm in this situation. Danora was different from her usual self. Danora explained that she had almost become accustomed to seeing such things since being with Yagiri. On the other hand, Yuuki was leveling up with his sexy slaves in a dungeon pyramid near the forest. However, Yuuki couldn't detect Erika's presence because the contract was broken. When he checked Erika's last memory recording, Yuuki couldn't understand what was happening to her and why she was in front of the hotel room. Yuuki suspected that Erika was secretly attacked by someone else, but a sexy slave named Euphemia said that Erika couldn't have died so easily because she was an assassin. Euphemia also guessed that Erika might have wanted to bring Danora to become Yuuki's slave. The worst case scenario was that Danora might be killed because she wasn't deemed worthy by Yuuki. Even though the slaves had contracts with their master, they could still act according to their own desires. Then, Yuuki decided to send 2 of his slaves, Riza and Chelsea, to capture Danora. Yuuki was sure that Danora would run away soon because she felt the threat from Erika. In the hotel, Riza immediately used ice magic on Danora and Yagiri to prevent them from escaping. However, Yagiri could still use his powers against the ice. He also broke Riza's magic staff with his powers. Riza then pulled out a small-sized magic staff from her chest, and Yagiri was fascinated after seeing it.
いや、入るものなんだなと思ってさ。
で、高藤君もまじまじと見ない。
Chelsea began to surround them with her puppets, and Danora successfully defended against one of the puppet attacks. Of course, Yagiri was impressed because Danora could do that. Yagiri then killed Riza and stopped Chelsea's puppet attacks. As they headed to where Chelsea was, she cried, apologized, and begged for mercy. Chelsea didn't want to die. Well, this made them feel strange because they seemed to be the villains there.
私たちなんかすごい悪者みたいになってるんだけど。
Yuuki was a little annoyed because he still wanted to get Danora as his slave. Therefore, Yuuki controlled many flying cockroaches to guide them to a suitable place for an attack. Then, Danora felt disgusted and scared because she was facing flying cockroaches. Well, even though the flying cockroaches were cute and adorable in appearance, Danora then told Yagiri to kill the flying cockroaches. But Yagiri said that if he killed them, the cockroaches would fall on Danora's body. Well, Danora retracted her statement after hearing that. Danora was very angry at Yuuki because he had threatened her with flying cockroaches. On the other hand, Yuuki immediately used his skill to kill Yagiri with the flying cockroaches there. Yagiri sensed a very strong killing intent around him and quickly used his powers to kill Yuuki. Although Yuuki had been killed by Yagiri, the flying cockroaches were still there. Yagiri explained to Danora that the flying cockroaches might have become their own entities. Then, Yagiri held Danora's hand so they could quickly run away. On the other hand, Yuuki's slaves no longer had contracts with Yuuki and left him in the dungeon. But when Euphemia exited the dungeon, she found herself in a desert and met Lane there. It turned out that Kureyami was approaching a city soon, and Lane immediately sucked Euphemia's blood to find out something. On the other hand, Danora and Yagiri successfully left the hotel, and then saw zombies attacking the city. The zombie leader is named Masayuki, a subordinate of Lane. As the city darkens under thick black clouds, Masayuki meets Ryota, the leader or supervisor of Hanabusa City. Masayuki carries out attacks like this under Lane's orders. Lane is the ruler of Hanabusa City. However, Ryota disagrees with the order because he has worked hard to build the city of Hanabusa. Nevertheless, Masayuki follows Lane's command and asks Ryota for the city's key. Then, Masayuki orders the zombies to stop attacking the residents. He announces that the residents must find Danora and Yagiri as soon as possible. After that, they should bring them to the city center square. Whether dead or alive, the residents must successfully carry out this order if they want to survive. Masayuki has locked the protective barrier of Hanabusa City, so Danora and Yagiri cannot leave the city. Upon hearing this, Danora is confused as they are targeted without clear reasons. Yagiri speculates that it's probably because he has killed many sages. Shortly after, some residents find Danora and Yagiri hiding in a small alley. One resident intends to kill them, but Yagiri immediately kills him, and the remaining residents flee. Danora thinks Yagiri is too ruthless for killing ordinary people, but Yagiri explains he only kills those with intentions to harm him. Then, Yagiri just realizes his mistake in judging the situation there. Due to this, Yagiri decides to approach Masayuki with Danora. Of course, Masayuki and Ryota are surprised by their decision. Masayuki believes Danora and Yagiri are sacrificing themselves for the people of Hanabusa City. Yagiri then intentionally asks Masayuki to release the city's protective barrier so they can leave. Yagiri will let Masayuki live if he complies with Yagiri's wishes. Masayuki is angered by this request and summons his undead forces to attack Yagiri. Masayuki and his forces consist of various types of undead. Masayuki is shocked as his undead forces vanish instantly. He wonders why the undead, who are already dead, can die again. Yagiri answers that he also doesn't understand it but clarifies that anything in front of him can die in an instant. Yagiri decides who lives or dies, and others can form their own opinions about him. Meanwhile, Ryota, who has been silent from the start, states that he had no involvement in Masayuki's attack. Ryota introduces himself to Yagiri there. Masayuki immediately transforms his body to attack Yagiri. Yagiri remarks that he is truly tired of waiting for an enemy who performs dramatic transformations like that. He approaches the frightened Ryota, who pleads not to be killed by Yagiri. Ryota claims he has no intention of doing anything to them. Yagiri explains that he only did it to protect Danora and himself. After Ryota calms down, he reveals that Lane ordered Masayuki to kill them. Ryota has never interfered in Sage candidate matters, so he doesn't understand Lane's motives. Shortly after, Makamoko appears to inform Danora about the aura in Hanabusa City. The attitudes of the residents suddenly change as they head towards them. This is due to the manipulation of spirits by someone. Danora, protected by Makamoko, is unaffected by the manipulation. Yagiri realizes this and believes someone is testing his powers. Ryota tries to reactivate the city's protective key to neutralize the magic, but it doesn't work. Ryota suspects Lane is controlling the city. On the other hand, it turns out Lane is indeed testing Yagiri's strength. Even Kurayami is deliberately directed to the city to face Yagiri directly. Anything in front of Kurayami will turn to sand when Kurayami passes through. Euphemia is now Lane's slave and advises Lane not to resist Yagiri. Yagiri is extremely dangerous, and his power surpasses all in the world. However, Lane continues with her plan and splits herself for the next phase. Lane has arranged her clones not to remember Yagiri's name. The clones also have no intention of killing anyone. Lane categorizes this as a disaster for Hanabusa City. She believes Yagiri cannot kill her under these conditions. The disaster will begin when Kurayami suddenly disappears due to Yagiri's attack. On the other hand, Yagiri tries to protect Danora and Ryota from the residents' attacks, but he cannot do it continuously. He cannot directly kill Lane as he doesn't know the connections trail. Yagiri tells Danora that he has been in a similar situation before, a situation where someone tried various things to measure Yagiri's strength. Soon, Danora senses a dull aura around the city. Kurayami has reached the city and is advancing towards Danora and Yagiri. Yagiri senses something strange about this situation but still instantly kills Kurayami. Then, an anomaly occurs, and Yagiri quickly embraces Danora. Danora is confused by the situation and thinks the red light comes from Kurayami, but Yagiri says he has already killed Kurayami. Yagiri thinks the red light is something separate from Kurayami. There's no specific target. It randomly attacks at high speed, seemingly aiming to destroy the city. Danora briefly changes the subject as Yagiri continues to lean against her breasts, with his hands embracing her.
大丈夫だし離れてくれない？
ああ、なんか柔らかいなって思った。
After Yagiri released his embrace, Danora wanted to say something about the red light. She saw that the red light seemed to take the form of a woman in a red dress diving from the black sky. Upon hearing this, Ryota suggested that the attack likely came from Lane's clones. Ryota is genuinely frustrated and doesn't understand Lane's true intentions. Nevertheless, Yagiri cannot attack Lane because the red light does not intend to attack him. However, Yagiri can stop the attack if Lane's clones are clearly visible to him. Upon hearing this, Ryota quickly opens the map of Hanabusa City with his power. He explains that Lane's clones are attacking different locations and won't attack the same place. So, Yagiri can be on guard in an area not yet attacked by Lane's clones. This way, Yagiri can counter-attack when one of the clones dives towards him. Danora will also accompany Yagiri because Makamoko has a good plan to protect them later. Then, Ryota quickly teleports them with his power, and after that, Ryota teleports elsewhere as soon as possible. After waiting for a few minutes, Danora sees Lane's clones targeting their location. Yagiri immediately grabs Danora's hand and attacks the clone. They successfully survive thanks to Danora's underwear made of the time-traveling aggressor material. On the other hand, Lane becomes more confused with Yagiri's power as he can kill vampire-type undead. Shortly after, Lane senses a strange power attacking her, and it's Yagiri's power. After Lane's body truly disappears from this world, another girl wakes up from a coffin. When the girl comes out of the coffin, she sees a hologram magic recording from a stone she holds. It's a recording of Lane stating that the girl is a copy owned by Lane. But the girl will not have Lane's memories and will live with a different personality. Lane has planned this to avoid attacks from Yagiri.
Takato, Yagiri.
Some time passes, and Ryota has prepared a vehicle for Danora and Yagiri, who will depart for their next destination soon. He is very grateful to Danora and Yagiri for stopping the chaos in the city. Ryota doesn't care about the deceased Lane as he hasn't respected Lane for a long time. Then, Danora thanks Ryota for preparing the vehicle for her and Yagiri. After that, Danora approaches Yagiri because typically, it's the man who drives for the woman. Yagiri says he's very bad at driving like this, and there's a possibility of an accident if he drives the car. Upon hearing this, Danora becomes scared, and she insists on driving the car to ensure they arrive safely at their destination. At night, on the other hand, Ryoko is visited by a girl named Carol. Carol returns Ryoko's phone because its battery is almost run out. Ryoko expresses gratitude as she lost her phone a few days ago. Carol then admits that she was the one who stole Ryoko's phone back then. She wanted to see Yagiri's observation tool from Ryoko's phone. Unfortunately, Carol couldn't do it. Of course, Ryoko is suspicious of Carol's true intentions. Carol explains that Ryoko doesn't need to hide anything about Yagiri now. Carol just wants to monitor Yagiri through Ryoko's phone. Carol's organization actually has a satellite to observe Yagiri's activities at all times. But the satellite cannot operate in this world. Ryoko and Carol are girls sent by their respective organizations or institutions to monitor Yagiri. They know that Yagiri's power has been dangerous since they were on Earth. Shortly after, Ryoko's phone alarm goes off, indicating an important notification.
第一門が開いてる。ん？そんな。
After hours of travel, Danora and Yagiri arrived in a mountainous area filled with rocks. Despite Danora's ability to drive the car, she still felt scared as she was just a girl, unable to seek Yagiri's help since he was sleeping and had poor driving skills. Then, their car stuck in a dead-end road and Danora urgently woke up Yagiri. Unfortunately, waking up Yagiri was a challenging task for her. In Yagiri's dream, he recalled his past when he first met his sister. Before meeting his sister, in an institution's laboratory, Asaka had signed an agreement consenting to the possibility of death during work. However, Asaka was unaware of the tasks assigned by the institution. The institution was named Independent Higher Order Organism Research, focused on researching occult sciences with the primary goal of combating and taming powerful curses. Yukio then took Asaka to a place underground. As an educator, Asaka's current task was to handle and manage a mysterious monster named Alpha Omega. Of course, Asaka was shocked, as she had not expected to be given such a terrifying task by the institution. But if Alpha Omega left without supervision, Alpha Omega could pose a threat to humanity. After arriving at Alpha Omega's location, Yukio left Asaka there as his task was only to accompany her. Of course, Asaka was terrified because she had to approach Alpha Omega alone. Asaka then entered an artificial world or another realm to meet Alpha Omega. She was extremely cautious and polite when visiting Alpha Omega's house there. When Asaka saw Alpha Omega's figure, her fear suddenly disappeared, replaced by anger towards the institution. Filled with anger, Asaka brought Alpha Omega out of the house to play. Asaka didn't understand the institution's intentions. She didn't perceive Alpha Omega as a threat to humanity. Soon after, Alpha Omega killed a shadow demon that had been following Asaka since the beginning. Alpha Omega explained that such figures often came to kill him. Then, Alpha Omega expressed a desire to play with Asaka, but it was getting late, and Alpha Omega suggested playing tomorrow. Asaka apologized for her emotional outburst earlier and introduced herself to Alpha Omega. However, Alpha Omega didn't have a personal name as it was merely a research subject. They shared a meal, and Asaka inquired about Alpha Omega's family, but Alpha Omega didn't understand what Asaka meant. After observing Alpha Omega's reaction, Asaka decided to give a name to Alpha Omega, Yagiri. Of course, Alpha Omega was delighted with the name, and even added Asaka's family name to his given name, Takato Yagiri. Initially surprised, Asaka would now become Yagiri's foster mother or guardian. Asaka would also teach Yagiri good ethics. Before I continue this story, I apologize because I don't have clarity on their relationship. As far as I understand, Asaka is Yagiri's foster mother, but Yagiri considers Asaka as his sister. I apologize if this information is incorrect, and I hope you correct it if you know about it. Shortly after, Yagiri woke up, and Danora explained that the path they had taken was a dead end. As Yagiri wanted to meet Sion as soon as possible, they needed to find an alternative route quickly. Suddenly, a dragon blocked their path and prepared to attack them. Shortly after, many dragons were about to attack them. Danora hugged Yagiri's arm, frightened by the number of dragons. Then, Yagiri instantly killed the dragons, and a golden lightning dragon approached them. However, Yagiri did not sense any intent to harm from the golden lightning dragon. After staring at each other for a while, the golden lightning dragon suddenly said, "You pass," and quickly left. Yagiri didn't understand the golden lightning dragon's meaning, so he shouted for it to explain the meaning of "you pass." If the golden lightning dragon didn't explain, it would face the same fate as the other dragons. Hearing this, the golden lightning dragon immediately transformed into a beautiful lowly named Attila. Danora was confused because the majestic and powerful dragon turned out to be a child. Makamoko mentioned that such things were common in the anime worlds with isekai theme. Attila explained that she was testing their suitability before meeting the Swordmaster. The mountainous region there was under the rule of the Swordmaster, and whoever proved worthy would receive a gift from him, as the Swordmaster was equivalent to a great sage. Then, Yagiri stated that he and Danora did not want to meet the Swordmaster. They passed through that path to reach the capital. Upon hearing this, Attila was surprised as she had misunderstood the situation. But she pleaded with them to still meet the Swordmaster, as she was tasked with gathering talented individuals. Although Danora and Yagiri were not interested, they decided to comply with Attila's wishes. Perhaps the Swordmaster could provide information on how to return to Earth. A few hours later, they arrived where many talented individuals were gathered. Soon after, Swordmaster arrived and initiated a competition for the selection of the Holy King's Knights. The rule was that participants must kill each other, and if anyone tried to escape the competition, all participants would be considered losers. Of course, Danora found these rules peculiar. Danora and Yagiri got involved in an insignificant event there. Shortly after, some people wanted to kill Yagiri, but he was saved by a knight named Rick. Then, Yagiri noticed some individuals using magic targeting him and Rick. Yagiri quickly killed them, and Rick remained unaware of the situation. After the first competition ended, Rick invited Danora and Yagiri to continue participating. The Swordmaster and the surviving participants would go to another location nearby. Then, an adventurer asked Danora for help in taking and placing a colored magic stone in his hand. The adventurer's body had been split due to an attack by one of the participants. After Danora helped him, the adventurer quickly recovered. Attila stated that if Yagiri became the Holy King's Knight, she would be promoted to a servant. Although Yagiri found Attila's request troublesome, He agreed to it to gain information about returning to Earth. The adventurer introduced himself as Lionel, and he reluctantly joined the competition because he was invited by his friend. Lionel's power came from a colored magic stone, which functioned like a gacha, granting him various items or abilities. He received a colored magic stone from a beautiful goddess every day. By the way, this anime makes too many references to other isekai-themed anime. After walking for a while, they entered a magical barrier protecting a tower. Unfortunately, the malevolent aura within the barrier was too sharp for Lionel to endure. Danora and Yagiri sensed the evil aura, and Makamoko shielded Danora from its effects. When Danora looked at Yagiri, he seemed nervous and lost in thought. This confused Danora, as she had never seen Yagiri act this way before. Shortly after, the malevolent aura disappeared without a trace, and Yagiri anxiously searched for Attila's presence. Makamoko and Rick explained that Attila didn't enter the barrier, as it was reserved only for participants and the Swordmaster. Upon reaching the tower's summit, the Swordmaster showed them where the Demon God and Holy King's Knight were frozen in time. The Holy King's Knight was a woman who simultaneously thrust her sword backward at the Demon God and herself. Danora observed them closely, even seeing many monsters gathered around them. This place was referred to as the end of the world, and this world could face apocalypse at any time. Shortly after, Lionel's friend Frederica attempted to use her immense power to kill the Demon God. Unfortunately, when Frederica attacked the Demon God, her fireball slowed down and stopped within the Demon God and Holy King's Knight's area. The Swordmaster explained that Frederica's actions were futile, as her attack could reach the Demon God in an undetermined amount of time, possibly hundreds of years. Swordmaster's duty was only to watch over the Holy King's Knight and the Demon God. Then, Swordmaster instructed two maid girls to explain the rules of the second round of the competition. Participants had 24 hours to descend to the first floor and collect points within the tower. If participants used a method to jump directly to the first floor, they wouldn't earn any points. Additionally, some special participants were added for this second round. Danora wondered if Yagiri could defeat the Demon God directly, but Yagiri had a rule about who he was allowed to kill. Once again, Yagiri daydreamed and exhibited peculiar behavior. Danora grew more curious as she observed Yagiri in this state. Then, Yagiri whispered something to Danora. Well, actually Yagiri was just tired because the evil aura there was too sharp. The most important thing now is that they have to descend and leave the tower as soon as possible. Attila is no longer following them, and it's time to continue their main goal. Danora and Yagiri went to explore the tower again with Rick and Lionel. Some people had already entered the tower to collect their respective points there. In the tower, there were many monsters and traps, so they had to be careful when in certain areas. But unfortunately, Lionel repeatedly had bad luck stepping on some unseen traps there, until finally, he entered a room and had his hand cut off by one of the maids there named Teresa. Turns out, she was the Holy King's Knight who was stripped of her title due to the case of killing many people. The way to earn points is by killing other participants, and the points of a deceased participant will be given to the one who kills them. The more points the participants have, the more their lives are threatened. Then Rick told Yagiri and the others to leave first, while Rick would fight Teresa. Danora warned Rick because there were many magical threads in the room. Teresa's strength was extraordinary as she could withstand Rick's attacks. But Yagiri quickly killed Teresa because he felt this battle drama had gone on for too long. In short, they reached a safe area on the 98th floor, which had accommodation facilities for the participants. Then Yagiri advises to Rick and Lionel to split up from now on. If they want to win this competition, they have to kill the other participants separately. Danora and Yagiri don't mind this decision and will explore the tower alone. Rick and Lionel agreed with Yagiri's suggestion. Lionel would stay overnight in the safe area for a while, and Rick would continue to explore the tower. Then Yagiri ordered 2 rooms from the maid there, but unfortunately, there was only 1 room left. Yagiri didn't mind that, but it was Danora who actually had a problem with the situation. Makamoko could go to another room so Danora could enjoy her night with Yagiri. Then Yagiri started to approach the bed, took off his pants and shirt, put on his pajamas, and went to sleep. Well, I thought there would be some indecent scenes. Turns out Yagiri was really just tired and didn't care about the situation. Then Danora also changed her clothes and slept on the same bed with Yagiri. On the other hand, Lionel obtained 100 gacha stones from the beautiful goddess, and he started gacha to get equipment or companions later. But what appeared from the gacha was the beautiful goddess. She just wanted to see Lionel in person, and set spawn points so Lionel could return to that room if he died later. Actually, Lionel was just an ordinary man reincarnated into this world, and he gained extraordinary gacha powers from the beautiful goddess.
第一結界用のハンマーもそろそろ補充が必要です。
第二結界に必要な量はまだ余裕があるんだろう？
はい、いくつか気になる点が島内の死者数とソウルの数が合わないのです。
On the other hand, a girl named Hayanase Aoi was pressing a man named Sato. Sato was a transmigrant granted power by the god. Aoi pressed Sato to follow her, and if Sato refused, Aoi would kill him. Sato tried to fight Aoi because he suspected that Aoi was a follower of the great sage. But unfortunately, Sato's power could be imitated and destroyed by Aoi. Because Sato still insisted on fighting her, Aoi immediately killed him, then hurried to find the whereabouts of Yagiri and Danora. Shortly after, Hanakawa approached Aoi to ask for something from her. Hanakawa had become Sato's follower because Sato had saved him when Hanakawa was being controlled by Yagiri's slave command. But Sato was dead now, and Hanakawa begged Aoi to take him away together. Hanakawa would become Aoi's slave if she wanted. After some time traveling, Aoi and Hanakawa encountered the Golden Thunder Dragon or Attila, who was testing their worthiness. However, Aoi's power was too strong, causing Attila to lose in the fight. Aoi had a power called Just World where she could make anything she desired come true. The scale of her power depended on how strong her opponent was, but Aoi wouldn't be able to use her opponent's power if their power was beyond human reasoning. Shortly after, a high-tech aggressor called Hedgehog came to this world and killed Attila in an instant. The aggressor Hedgehog then absorbed the information in Attila's memory. Initially, Aoi would attack the aggressor Hedgehog if it attacked her, but Aoi and Hanakawa were lucky because the aggressor went somewhere else. Then Aoi glimpsed the aggressor's route and saw a tower as its destination. Because of that, Aoi and Hanakawa immediately headed to that tower. Maybe Danora and Yagiri were there. Aoi deliberately brought Hanakawa because she wanted to know information from Hanakawa. In the tower, Danora, still sleeping peacefully like a princess, suddenly woke up upon hearing the commotion from Makamoko. She was also startled to find Yagiri embracing her, resting against her chest. Then she was even more surprised to see Makamoko stuck to the wall of the room. Makamoko asked for Danora's help as it was gradually being absorbed by the tower's wall since last night. Initially, she went to the next room, but when Makamoko tried to peek at the intimate scene of Yagiri embracing Danora, she got stuck like that and gradually got absorbed into the wall. Eventually, Makamoko understood that the tower was collecting the souls of the deceased. After Prince Yagiri woke up and learned of the situation, he tried to do something to the tower wall. Makamoko was curious why the tower was absorbing souls. Yagiri speculated that perhaps it was for a purpose other than just a trial. Yagiri also warned Danora to always be vigilant in the tower. Danora's determination had to be strong because they might face various situations later on. Yagiri also mentioned that he would start killing a bit more ruthlessly if necessary for their goals. Danora wasn't surprised by Yagiri's statement because she was already accustomed to doing so. Moreover, Yagiri's warning came too late as Danora was already prepared to face any situation since the beginning of their adventure. Whatever happened, Danora would help Yagiri as much as possible until Yagiri made his own decisions. Danora didn't want to be selfish towards Yagiri because he had already saved her life. Then Danora gave her most beautiful smile to Yagiri and said, "But I hope you don't overdo it." Upon hearing that, Yagiri was surprised, blushed, and turned away. Then they returned to exploring the tower and managed to destroy the traps that disturbed their path. Soon after, they met Iglesia, the High Wizard. He couldn't allow them, who had destroyed the traps there. The tower was used to maintain the barrier of the demon god and the Holy King's Knight they saw at the top of the tower before. If Danora and Yagiri continued to destroy the traps, Iglesia considered them to be the subordinates of the demon god. After hearing that, Yagiri still wanted to continue his plan to leave the tower. Yagiri intentionally killed him because Iglesia obstructed Yagiri's plan. Then they continued their journey and arrived at a coliseum, where there was a battle between the participants, Masaki's subordinate and Theodisia. Masaki had 3 beautiful girls as his subordinates with extraordinary powers. Masaki felt that Theodisia was in disguise mode. Then Masaki's suspicion was correct. Theodisia was a half-demon race and had to finish this competition before the Swordmaster knew her identity. Their battle continued and Yagiri quickly negotiated with Masaki. Yagiri wanted to leave the Colosseum without disturbing their battle, but Masaki didn't allow them, and he ordered his subordinates to kill Yagiri. He wanted to take Yagiri's points even though Yagiri only had 6 points. Masaki also planned to make Theodisia and Danora his harem. Initially, Masaki kept boasting about the greatness of his subordinates, but Yagiri immediately killed Masaki and his 3 subordinates because Masaki's boasting was useless. After seeing their deaths, Theodisia asked for help from Yagiri and Danora. Of course, Yagiri immediately asked for Danora's approval. Danora was the girl guiding Yagiri's decisions since they embarked on the adventure together. Then Danora remained silent for a moment, and after a few seconds, Danora asked Yagiri to listen to the problem that Theodisia was experiencing first. Theodisia said that she wanted to search for her younger sister and rescue her friends who were possibly taken to this tower. Theodisia sensed the aura of her race, half-demon, beneath the tower's ground. Most likely, they were taken by Swordmaster forcibly for his own purposes. Because of that, she asked for help from Yagiri and Danora so that Swordmaster wouldn't target her. Furthermore, Theodisia also wanted them to help her search for her sister. However, the possible risk faced by Danora and Yagiri is opposing Swordmaster because they have already collaborated with the half-demon race. The half-demon race is always viewed negatively by people. Then, Yagiri agreed to help Theodisia. Besides, Yagiri and Danora accidentally got involved in this Holy Night competition, so it doesn't matter if they oppose Swordmaster. In fact, Yagiri has already damaged many parts of this tower to reach the first floor. Shortly after, Rick, Lionel, and Frederica arrived at the first floor and met with Yagiri, Danora, and Theodisia. Rick admired Yagiri and Danora for successfully reaching the first floor. Then they immediately went to the initial entry point because the competition had ended. Swordmaster announced that there were 17 people who had successfully reached the first floor. Therefore, Swordmaster officially bestowed upon them the title of Holy Knight. Then Swordmaster's twin maids came, informing that the barrier of the demon god and the divine king was almost destroyed. But suddenly, there was an extraordinary tremor from the tower. Shortly after, Orgain, a follower of the demon god, appeared, asking about how to release the barrier of the demon god. If nobody tells him, Orgain will kill them one by one. Because of that, Swordmaster ordered the Holy Knights to carry out their first task, which is to fight Orgain. On the other hand, Yagiri, Danora, and Theodisia took advantage of this situation to secretly go underground. If Yagiri directly confronts Orgain, Swordmaster will surely know Theodisia's intentions. Then Orgain started killing the Holy Knights because he hadn't received the answer. Frederica tried to fight Orgain, but unfortunately, Frederica's magic disappeared instantly in Orgain's hands. Then another follower of the demon god named Lute appeared and stopped Frederica's second magic. He said that Frederica's power was not enough to fight Lute and Orgain. Suddenly, Frederica's right hand and magic wand detached, turned into candy due to Lute's power. Rick immediately took over Frederica's fight and told Lionel to calm her down. Shortly after, Lionel got an Ultra Super SSR gacha menu, and Lionel immediately used it to help the battle there. But unfortunately, what came out of the gacha was Lionel's goddess. Then Orgain and Lute suddenly greeted Lionel's goddess. On the other hand, Yagiri and the others explored the endless underground staircase. Perhaps there is a barrier there to protect something valuable beneath the tower. Shortly after, there was a sound of monster screams that caused the barrier to become inactive. And suddenly, Danora felt a black monster filled with swords passing them quickly. Of course, Yagiri was confused because he didn't sense anything. Then Theodisia found a room that was completely filled with her friends. However, she was shocked to find her friends who no longer had normal bodies. Then Yagiri instructed Danora to stay on the staircase because the room couldn't be shown to a girl like her. Yagiri also sympathized with Theodisia's friend's fate. Theodisia's friend's energy drained through experimental tubes to provide additional energy for the tower's barrier. And the demon god, they couldn't be saved, but they remained alive in that condition. This made Theodisia sickened by Swordmaster and wanted to avenge them. Then Theodisia immediately destroyed the place and killed her own friends. She was forced to do this because she didn't want her friends to suffer. Back to the battle on the first floor of the tower. It turns out Lionel's goddess is named Vahanato, and she's a longtime friend of Orgain and Lute. Upon learning this, Swordmaster immediately passes on his title to Rick because Swordmaster might die if confronting them all at once. The goddess tells Lionel that she will handle this issue by exterminating humans. Therefore, the goddess will dispel the barrier to free the demon god named Albagarma. Then Lionel asks the goddess while chatting to understand the true intentions. Albagarma's hobby is traveling around the world in this universe. The goddess doesn't interfere because it's a normal activity for Albagarma. But after some time, the goddess feels something odd because Albagarma doesn't return to the god's world. Therefore, the goddess sends many messengers to various worlds in the universe. And finally, she learns that Albagarma is sealed in this world. But the main problem is the goddess can't directly release Albagarma's seal. She needs time to manifest herself in human form. Moreover, every envoy she sends to this world is always defeated by Swordmaster. Therefore, the goddess creates a power system for someone who can ally with Swordmaster and not fight against him. The goddess chooses to reincarnate Lionel into this world because Lionel has had a rough life on Earth. With the goddess's overpowering strength, Lionel can get anything he wants. From there, the goddess can try to realize her human manifestation through Lionel's gacha. Actually, Albagarma doesn't have evil intentions. It's the power-hungry humans who create the problem. Albagarma can fulfill whatever humans wish for, but humans also have to sacrifice something for their wishes to come true. Ultimately, humans decide that the demon god must be sealed. If the demon god remains, he will annihilate humanity. Then the demon god says that if that's what humans desire, then the sacrifice for that hope is the destruction of humanity in this world. Then Lute says the demon god's barrier seems to be weakening. Therefore, the goddess wants to do something to release the barrier. But suddenly, the goddess laughs loudly because one of the strongest characters in this world, Masaki, and his subordinates are dead. If Masaki had survived, he could have easily banished the goddess from this world. The goddess is also delighted because the one who created the barrier, Iglesia, is also dead. Then the goddess takes Iglesia's heart to break the demon god's barrier. But after the barrier breaks, Albagarma suddenly dies for no reason. Although the Divine King stabbed him, that stab shouldn't have any effect because the demon god is very strong. Well, actually, it's all Yogiri's doing, accidentally killing the demon god. When they first entered the tower's surrounding area, Yogiri was the one who removed the evil aura there, and inadvertently, Yogiri's power affected the demon god. Since then, Yogiri has been acting strangely because he doesn't know anything about the situation there. He also feels guilty for killing the demon god. Then Theodisia immediately beheads Swordmaster because this is her best chance. Shortly after, the black monster Danara mentioned, or aggressor Hedgehog, attacks the goddess and searches her memories. Then the aggressor Hedgehog leaves to find more information. Of course, the goddess is still alive because she has fast regeneration power. But unfortunately, the goddess's memory becomes chaotic, and she starts rampaging there. On the other hand, Orgain didn't expect the demon god to die so easily like this. Therefore, Orgain immediately orders the other demon god's followers to kill Rick and the others. If there's a sacrifice, then the demon god can surely revive with his power. The Divine King immediately protects Rick and the others, while Yogiri asks Danara and Theodisia to hold on to him tightly. Yogiri doesn't want them to get hurt, and he immediately uses his power on all of the demon god's followers, except the goddess and Lute. Yogiri doesn't kill them because they don't intend to kill him. Then Danara realizes that there's no point in her holding onto Yogiri's arm because of his power. On the other hand, Aoi and Hanakawa finally arrive at the tower area, and immediately ask Rick and the others about Yogiri. While the goddess's rampage is ongoing, Aoi also helps analyze Rick to kill the goddess. Rick has to use his holy sword power toward the stab wound marks on the goddess's body. The goddess's body defense weakens after the sudden stabbing incident from the aggressor Hedgehog. After that, Aoi finally meets Yogiri in person. She's curious about Yogiri's prowess because Seon sent someone as strong as Aoi to capture him. But when Aoi analyzes Yogiri, her body trembles, and she senses a chilling aura from Yogiri. Yogiri's power can't be detected and disrupts Aoi's analysis system. That means, no matter how strong anyone's power is, no one can defeat Yogiri because Yogiri is the end of destiny. This figure takes on a human-like form and can threaten any world. No one will live anymore once Yogiri has determined their death. Then Aoi reasons with Yogiri that she only wants to bring Hanakawa to meet him. Yogiri says he doesn't need Hanakawa. Therefore, Aoi will soon abandon Hanakawa, and Aoi says goodbye to return to her territory. After that, Yagiri asks Hanakawa, shouldn't you be in the forest? Hanakawa replies that he forgot to mention that the necklace's effect doesn't last forever. Hanakawa pleads with Yagiri to trust him. He doesn't want to be killed by Yagiri. Then Rick asks Theodisia why did she kill Swordmaster. Theodisia answers that she was only avenging her race against Swordmaster. Rick has nothing to do with Theodisia and Swordmaster's issues. However, Rick wants to know more information about it because he's the new Swordmaster. Therefore, Theodisia assumes Rick will bear all of Swordmaster's sins if he's willing to know the real reason. Yagiri calms them down and tells Rick to check the condition of the underground room in the tower. That way, Rick can understand Theodisia's intentions. Initially, Rick wanted to fight Yagiri for siding with Theodisia, but the Divine King stops Rick's action. The Divine King tells him that Organe and the Demon God's followers have been killed by Yagiri, so Rick is not his match. Of course, Rick is surprised because he just learned about Yagiri's strength. Then they finally reconcile and discuss their next goals. After chatting for a while, they have the same goal, heading to the capital with different missions. Theodisia also mentions her sister's name to Yagiri and Danara, who turns out to be Euphemia. Of course, Yagiri and Danara know that name and immediately inform Theodisia about the Hanabusa city. Then Rick and the others leave by different routes. And of course, Yagiri wants to always be with Danara, who has a big breasts. After that, Hanakawa, who is still around the tower, is approached by Lute with his great anger. On the other hand, Seon receives a report that Aoi had to stop her mission and didn't want to meet Yagiri. Therefore, Seon immediately summons someone who knows about Yagiri from Earth. That person is one of the researchers from the institution's laboratory. Initially, he didn't understand the situation he just experienced. But when Seon asks about Yagiri to him, he immediately checks his device to see Yagiri's whereabouts. He is very happy because Yagiri is summoned to this world. The Earth will be saved from danger. Shortly afterward, the first gate of the Alpha Omega reopens, and the man is in a panic. Until finally, he is killed for unknown reasons. Of course, this confuses Seon about Yagiri's true figure. Let's return to the story when Asaka took care of Yagiri. Asaka always tries hard to cook food for him every day. Well, even though the food served was like that, at least Asaka had tried her best. Yagiri reluctantly ate Asaka's cooking even though it didn't taste good. Asaka felt a little embarrassed because as a woman, she wasn't good at cooking. I don't know why, but it's me who actually wants to eat it. Women who try hard for their loved ones like Asaka usually have extraordinary affection. Then Asaka's next activity is to provide basic knowledge to Yagiri. Of course, Asaka felt confused because there was no other explanation from the activity report given by Yukio. Therefore, Asaka decided to only provide elementary school knowledge to Yagiri. It seems nice to have a beautiful teacher like her. I want to be taught by Asaka too. I want to know how to love a woman properly. After that, I can make Asaka my wife. Asaka also thought about her salary, whether it really matched her job or not. When Asaka was teaching Yagiri to write, suddenly they were visited by a robot girl. The robot girl was accustomed to visiting Yagiri to replenish food there. After knowing that, Asaka immediately asked for the robot girl's help to bring various writing tools, cooking utensils, books, television, game console, dog, etc. Asaka couldn't let the house be silent without any activity. After Asaka finished teaching Yagiri, she played with Yagiri outside as promised. 1 month passed. Asaka finally could breathe fresh air outside for a while. During this time, Asaka had only spent time working in the artificial world at the institution. Yukio was impressed because only Asaka could last for 1 month compared to the previous workers. The institution couldn't add other workers to accompany Asaka. Many workers had their morale drop due to taking care of Alpha Omega before. Then Asaka commented that she didn't like working being confined in an artificial world like that. Then Yukio immediately gave an envelope containing Asaka's salary so she could understand how important the job Asaka had now. Asaka could also take a leave if she really wanted to. When Asaka opened her salary envelope, she was surprised because the amount of money was super duper huge. Of course, Asaka immediately took a leave and enjoyed her peaceful life. But unfortunately, Asaka suddenly fainted and woke up in my room. Oh, I mean in a laboratory prison room. Then there was a girl's voice from the speaker there saying that they wouldn't harm Asaka. They just wanted to extract information about anything from Alpha Omega. It turned out they were an international organization intentionally trailing Asaka and kidnapping her. The organization's goal was to prevent the world's destruction by eliminating or sealing its main source. On the other hand, Yogiri asked the robot girl about Asaka's whereabouts. Then she told Yogiri that Asaka was on leave today. Days passed. Yogiri and his dog were lonely because Asaka didn't return there. Yogiri really missed her. Therefore, Yogiri decided to search for Asaka's whereabouts out there. Yogiri immediately asked for the robot girl's help to inform him of the exit door from that artificial world. However, the exit door couldn't be opened from the inside. So Yogiri asked the researchers to open the door. Of course, the researchers were surprised because they heard Alpha Omega's wish. Initially, they didn't open the door, but Yogiri immediately killed them and one of the surviving researchers reluctantly followed Alpha Omega's wish. Yukio immediately went to the control room and saw many dead researchers there. Of course, Yukio was shocked because Alpha Omega could kill without seeing the target in front of it. When one of the guards there wanted to shoot Yogiri, he immediately died and Alpha Omega entered the control room. Alpha Omega asked Yukio, "Where is Asaka? When will she come back here?" Then Yukio answered honestly to Alpha Omega. Yukio had known that Asaka was kidnapped by an international organization. The institution couldn't save Asaka because the organization had higher authority than them. Then Yogiri proposed that he would save Asaka alone, so the researchers just stayed there quietly. From here, the events in the beginning of episode 1 happened. One day, the main character, a boy named Yogiri, was saving his sister, Asaka. Seal experts of supernatural powers assumed that they could defeat Alpha Omega. Alpha Omega's power was just an illusion and like the power of common characters in other anime. However, in reality, those Seal experts died instantly because they were killed by Yogiri. On the other hand, Asaka cried because she was in a situation like this. Even she was worried about Yogiri's condition alone in the institution's artificial world. Shortly after, a woman entered and threatened Asaka with a pistol. Then Yogiri finally met Asaka and the woman ordered Alpha Omega to be silent. If Alpha Omega moved, Asaka and he would die. Then Yogiri immediately killed the woman and took Asaka home. "Good job, Yogiri. You have saved my beautiful wife. I don't want them to live because they have made her cry." After Asaka returned to the institution's artificial world, she told Yogiri to play with his dog first. Asaka would talk briefly with Yukio in the house's yard. Yukio said that the rebellion of Alpha Omega couldn't be challenged by anyone. The previous incident would definitely not be brought up again because it concerned Alpha Omega's wishes. Yukio also decided to give Asaka strict protection when outside working hours. The institution didn't want Asaka to be kidnapped or threatened by anyone else because Asaka's role was very important for Alpha Omega. Yukio also asked about Asaka's feelings while working there. Asaka, my wife, honestly said that she didn't promise to work there forever, but Asaka couldn't quit working after seeing the previous incident. If Asaka ignored Yogiri, something worse might happen. Although Asaka didn't understand what kind of power Yogiri had, at least, Asaka wanted to accompany him as much as possible. Asaka wanted to teach him various things so that Yogiri could live happily as a normal man. Back to the present time. Yogiri and Danara finally arrived in the capital city. Danara also began to be interested in and have feelings for Yogiri. Even she always looked at Yogiri's handsome face when he was sleeping. Of course, Makamoko was happy because Danara finally had feelings of love and could have children with Yogiri. The Danara family's lineage must be preserved. Then Danara said that she didn't force Yogiri's feelings because he had the right to choose another girl if he wanted to. Shortly after, Yogiri woke up from his handsome sleep and saw their situation being surrounded by guards since they arrived in the capital city. The gate guard named Torx asked for their identity and purpose for coming to the capital city. Then Yogiri said that he and Danara were sage candidates, and the car they were driving belonged to Ryuta from Hanabusa City. Initially, Torx didn't allow them to enter, but Yogiri immediately showed 2 pendants to Torx and the guards. Then they immediately knelt before Yogiri and Danara thanks to that pendants. Previously, Rick intentionally gave the 2 pendants so that Yogiri and Danara could easily solve a problem in the capital city. The pendants contained an engraving of the royal family crest. Their fate was really good using insider channels. Then a royal heir named David approached them. He said that the pendants had 2 meanings. Either they were Rick's family or they were Knights of the Holy King. He wouldn't let them enter the capital city just like that. If Rick had become a swordmaster, it meant that Yogiri and Danara had become Knights of the Holy King. Therefore, David challenged one of them to fight him. Then Danara would face David. This was a golden opportunity to show Danara's abilities to the viewers of this anime. David used his high-quality sword, while Danara used just an ordinary kitchen knife. The match began, Danara used her agility, and this was the result of the match. Well, if the fighting style was like that, all men would surely lose. I feel sorry for the kitchen knife because its role is not important here. Yagiri blushed a little after seeing Danora kicking David's seed source. I don't know what Yagiri was thinking. Whether he's a masochist and hoping Danora would do that to him, or he's impressed because Danora could defeat David. After that, Yagiri and Danora were allowed to enter the capital city. David would escort them to their destination in a special way. David was no longer arrogant as before. Instead, he became friendly to them. Well, maybe he was afraid if his seed source was kicked again by Danora. There were many adventurers in the capital city and ready to carry out missions to oppose the demon world. David also told them that there were many descendants of the demon god sealed underground in this city. After Yagiri and Danora arrived at a hall, they finally reunited with other students. However, Yagiri and Danora still found it difficult to forgive those who had left Yagiri and the others on the bus at that time. Shortly after, the King of Mani welcomed the arrival of the Sage candidates. He would give them a second mission, but one of the Sage candidates was arrogant because he didn't want the King of Mani to rule like that. After hearing the arrogance of the Sage candidate, the King of Mani immediately confronted him. Although that boy could stop time, it wouldn't have any effect on the King of Mani. Let's go back to the time a few hours after Yagiri and Danora left their school bus at that time. One of the dead students came back to life and she didn't understand what was happening. It turns out Shinazaki was an artificial intelligence technology artificial human. Shinazaki was referred to as a unit by the program Personality Embodiment Unit group inside her. The system would direct Shinazaki to recover with the materials around her. Not only that, everything done by Shinazaki was based on commands from various artificial intelligence systems inside her body. On the other hand, Seon visited the place where Aoi was, but unfortunately, Aoi did not welcome her well, instead blaming her for bringing Yagiri into this world. Yagiri is neither human nor god, he is the end of everything, capable of even destroying the gods themselves. Yagiri cannot be called a living being. Perhaps Saitama, Shadow, Onos, Mashal, etc. would surely die fighting against him. Only breasts can tame him. Aoi does not want to deal with Yagiri again ever. She is truly terrified. Then Seon talked to Aoi's magical sword. The magical sword said that Aoi has been this frightened ever since she met Yagiri. The magical sword also told Seon about Hanakawa, who had directly interacted with Yagiri. So, there's a possibility that Seon could learn more if she meets Hanakawa later. Back to the time when Lute was still angry with Yagiri's actions. Hanakawa told Lute about Yagiri's abilities. However, Lute still intends to kill Yagiri by any means necessary. Lute will borrow even stronger power from the younger sibling of the demon god. Currently, the younger sibling of the demon god is sealed in the underworld of the capital, and Lute will be the one to break that seal later. The demon god deliberately sealed his younger sibling because of his younger sibling behavior difficult to control. Then Lute forcibly took Hanakawa with him. Lute doesn't know other details about Yagiri, so Hanakawa would surely be useful to him. Of course, Hanakawa complains and rants because he doesn't want to be enslaved by a young boy. He'd rather be enslaved by a beautiful girl than by Lute. The King of Mani ordered them to kill the powerful demon in the underworld of the capital. If the Sage candidates can do it, their abilities and strengths will be acknowledged by Seon. The King of Mani also explained that the Mani royal family has the ability to weaken the powers of the sages, so the sages cannot do any harm to the Mani royal family. After the King of Mani left, Danora's classmates only then realized Danora and Yagiri's presence. They were surprised that Danora and Yagiri were still alive. After that, Danora and Yagiri gathered with others in the royal hall. Izaki met them and said that he didn't feel guilty for making the decision to leave them on the bus. It was the right decision in that situation, and the other friends also agreed with Izaki's decision. Of course, Yagiri and Danora were still upset about that decision, but they wouldn't discuss it now because there were more important things at hand. Shortly afterward, an idol named Sora met them to cooperate on a second mission. Sora has the general ability to enhance someone's strength and also entertain anyone with her idol charm. After the events of the first day, Sora became the leader of the group because Yazaki was too selfish in making decisions. After that, Yagiri and Danora began gathering various pieces of information from their friends. Yagiri's friends recognized him, but unfortunately, Yagiri didn't recognize them. Although many students tried to chat with Yagiri during their school days, Yagiri still didn't care about their existence and preferred to sleep in class. Meanwhile, Danora is famous in her class for often hanging out with pretty girls. Yagiri and Danora were identified as the lowest class. Yagiri became an instant insect killer while Danora became the selfish sexy one. No, I mean the egoistic blacksmith. Shortly afterward, Fukai met Yagiri to talk about something in coded language. Fukai was identified as the god of death. Fukai was ordered by his superior to monitor Yagiri. Then Fukai gave his eyes to Yagiri. His power disappeared after entering another world. Fukai knew that Yagiri's power could still be used in another world. After saying those sentences, Fukai left, and Danara, Carol, and Ryoko met Yagiri to discuss something. After they went to the dormitory courtyard, Ryoko apologized to Yagiri for being negligent in her duties. The first gate of Alpha Omega has already opened, which means whoever messes with Yagiri's emotions will either be killed or automatically killed. Then Yagiri explained that he wouldn't kill without clear reasons. He has his own rules. Yagiri didn't expect that he actually had another supervisor besides Ryoko. Then Carol and Ryoko explained that Sora forbids their classmates from fighting using gift powers. If that happens, Sora will activate her holy power to punish them with death. After Yagiri and Danara understood the situation now, Yagiri stated his intention to meet with Seon to Ryoko and Carol. Yagiri wants to know how to return to Earth. But according to Ryoko, there's probably no other way than to become a sage first. The day of exploring the dungeon in the underworld began. Rick and David would guide them today. Danara, in her sexy attire, could easily kill the monsters. Of course, the weapon she used was always kept in the form of her underwear. Meanwhile, Yagiri pretended to mimic sword fighting styles while using his powers secretly. Not only that, Yagiri could also see the direction from which enemies intended to attack him. On the other hand, Lute and Hanakawa arrived in the capital to find information about the entrance to the underworld. Lute dressed up beautifully like a village girl so that Hanakawa wouldn't keep complaining about girls. Hanakawa wasn't disappointed with Lute's beautiful appearance, but Lute should have been able to be a tomboy girl according to Hanakawa's wishes. I think Hanakawa's brain is like a crazy person's. Then they went to a bar to find information. However, Hanakawa realized that one group of his classmates was also drinking beer there. The trio is known for being experts in erotic and lewd games. Their powers reflect their respective desires: stopping time, X-ray vision, and hardcore tentacles. Lute immediately manipulated Hanakawa's presence because Hanakawa kept complaining and worrying about his dignity in this world. The trio was discussing Yagiri, who is handsome and catching the attention of pretty girls in class. They didn't accept this situation. Shortly afterward, a girl in a dark purple robe approached them and immediately beat one of them to death. It turned out that the girl was Shinazaki, seeking revenge. She deliberately let her two friends live to deliver a message to all her classmates. Shinazaki will kill them one by one starting now. After hearing that, Hanakawa trembled because he was included in Shinazaki's target. After Shinazaki left, Seon visited the bar to meet Hanakawa. Seon wanted to ask Hanakawa for information about Yagiri. After Hanakawa explained, Seon didn't believe that Yagiri had such powers. Then Seon decided to kill Yagiri as soon as possible because Yagiri couldn't be utilized by Seon. Seon would also kill Hanakawa because he no longer needed. However, Lute saved Hanakawa's life because he was still useful to Lute. Then Hanakawa and Lute wanted to know the entrance to the underworld of the capital. Lute's goal is the same as Seon's, who wants to kill Yagiri. Therefore, Seon told them the entrance to the underworld. At night, Otori visited Seon in her room to ask for an extension to become a sage candidate. Of course, Seon allowed Otori's request, but in return, Otori's classmates had to kill Yagiri as soon as possible. On the other hand, news about Shinazaki reached Yagiri and his friends. Danara was confused about how Shinazaki, who was already dead, could come back to life. By the way, the sage candidates have successfully reached the 5th floor of the dungeon in the underworld. So, tomorrow they will try to conquer the 6th and 7th floors. On the other hand, Euphemia was contemplating her elder sister, Theodosia, but suddenly, a woman attacked her to target the inheritance rights of Euphemia's origin blood. Of course, Euphemia easily defeated the woman with the origin blood power inherited from Lane. Since Lane's death, her power was automatically passed on to Euphemia, who had a blood contract with her. After that, Euphemia traveled again to find Theodosia's whereabouts, but she met Leslie, a copy created by Lane. Euphemia immediately knelt because she recognized Leslie's aura.
私、大司教を務めさせていただいている。お帰りなさいませ、西王様。
こんなに大きくはなかったのだが。
ご自宅へとご案内いたしましょう。